So hello there and welcome back to the channel. This is Mels Gaming here with another Way of the Hunter video. Now this video is actually going to be quite a special one. Now one of my goals that I mentioned that I wanted to achieve in my gaming lately was I wanted to actually collect all of the possible 5 stars here in Way of the Hunter. And I had a number of species that I still needed to get 5 stars for, and we're starting off with the first one here on Transylvania, a 5-star mature brown bear. Now, I'd seen a few 4 stars for these guys, but had never actually had one make 5 stars. So I was really excited to find this guy. However, as you can see, at this point it's really low lighting, and I wanted to try and take this guy with the new Bear Constrictor Pro crossbow. And I took a shot, and honestly, I was struggling to see at that point with the lighting and trying to work out where the actual reticle was. So I was struggling a little bit there, trying to find my aiming point, and as you will have seen, the shot did not go particularly well. So, I waited, came back in daylight the next day, this guy was thankfully still here, and we managed to make a much more successful shot and drop this guy on the spot. Really thankful I actually managed to find him again the next day once it was actually a little bit lighter, so that I could actually see with that scope and get a much clearer aim point and actually bring this guy down. Taking a look at what happened with that first shot, you can see basically I just aimed a little bit too low. I only needed to be a bit higher and we would have gotten into the lungs, but unfortunately being that low, you can see it just basically cut along the bottom of his chest and then all the way through to the back leg there. So that was really unfortunate, but like I said, it was a factor of the distance and me trying to actually be able to see the dots in that light was really quite difficult. Would be nice to have some illuminated scopes for low light hunting, but that was just unfortunately what happened with that first shot. Second shot, much cleaner, straight into that lung and actually going sort of back out there by the intestines on the other side. This crossbow has some serious power and penetration, and honestly I was surprised that he dropped with that second shot, but I was really relieved to just see this guy actually dead on the ground. I was so worried about losing this trophy. He is a 90.28% on the genetics, so not really high genetics, but more than enough to be a 5-star, and to me that's all that matters. I just wanted a 5-star brown bear. He scores 471.0, and honestly I was just so thrilled. I actually found this guy as a 4-star while looking for a melanistic grey wolf, so when I found this guy as a 4-star I was like, please can this be the one that actually finally makes it. I'd had a few over on the new reserve that had got to 4 stars and then died, and this was the, I think, 2nd or 3rd 4-star I'd seen here on Transylvania, so to finally get one to make 5 stars was absolutely fantastic. Now moving on to another species that I'd never had a 5-star for, we have the Snowshoe Hair. Now once again we're going to use the Bear Constrictor Pro crossbow on this guy, and this is actually over on Nez Perce Valley. I basically started off trying to get a 5-star for these guys on Aurora Shores, but quickly realised I was probably way better off over here on Nez Perce Valley, as there was primary habitat for the snowshoe hares on private land, and those are the 2 factors that you are really looking for when it comes to high genetic animals. If they are on private land and in primary habitat, you're going to have really good genetics, and I had a lot of 4 stars before this guy actually ended up making it to 5 stars. Now that shot is one of my best shots ever in this game. A double lung heart shot frontal on a snowshoe hare just as it started to move, like center punching that heart. I was so happy with that shot, let alone this trophy. I just was so happy with how that shot turned out. This guy is 92.32% on the genetics, so pretty good, and this was my first 5-star for any of the hares or rabbits in this game. So I was super excited when I finally saw this guy go from 4-star to 5-star. It was so exciting. The small game, like the hares and rabbits, are some of the hardest 5 stars to get in this game, and that's why I needed all 3 of the in-game species for the hares and rabbits as 5 stars. He scores 486, so a pretty good score as well. All in all, a fantastic hunt. Now, I mentioned that I actually needed 5 stars for all of the rabbit and hare species that are currently in the game, and moving on to the next one, we have a 5-star European rabbit here on Matariki Park. Now, I knew that I had some good rabbit genetics in this particular area because I actually had seen a 4-star in this area before that ended up dying. So I came back, started managing the rabbit population, and actually fairly quickly ended up with a 5-star. A lot of 4 stars actually ended up in this group at the same time, but those all died. So actually having one that made 5-star was so exciting. This guy is 93.38% on the genetics, and again, I really wasn't too fussed about how high or low the score and the genetics were going to be. I was just super excited to see a 5-star European rabbit. Like I said, these really small things are some of the hardest 5 stars in the game to actually get, because trying to sort of manage them can be really tricky. He scores 472.0, so again, a really decent score, more than happy with that. So thrilled to get my first ever 5-star European rabbit, a really big achievement. I was so happy with that. And finally, the last of the hares and rabbits I needed a 5-star of was the European hare. And this took a while of trying to find the best area here on Transylvania for the European hare. Now, I knew that there was primary habitat on private land for the European hares in this particular area, so I knew that this was the area to focus on, but honestly, to start off with, I was getting a lot of low genetic hares, and then I decided to do a sweep through this area again and just look for some more zones, and ended up finding this guy waiting for me. And I couldn't believe it. I'd spent like 2 whole nights shooting hares, trying to manage my population, and then I find a 5-star and he was already here. And I was like, goodness, it was so insane to just see that 5-star pop up on a European hare. Again, one of the hardest 5 stars in the game to get. This is a really hard one to actually acquire, so this was so exciting for me. And he's got 99.39% on the genetics. Like, that's insane. And I knew he was going to have a super high score having genetics like that. 497. That is amazing. For my first ever 5-star European hare, 497 score. 3 away from the absolute max. That was just so exciting. And to finally be able to say I had all of the hares and rabbits as 5 stars was just such a relief. Now, moving on to the next couple of clips, and we're heading over to Tikamoon Plains, starting off with my first ever 5-star Black Wilderbeast. Now, these guys can be a really tricky 5-star to get as well, because they don't have a whole lot of horn variation, even between 1 stars and 5 stars, and it can be just tricky to manage them if you're going just off site, and you can end up shooting the wrong ones when you're actually trying to shoot them out of a herd, because they're always in good numbers for the most part. You'll have occasional solos, but they're normally in pretty big herds. And I actually ended up, unfortunately, running over a pretty high genetic, I think it was a young, and I was really gutted about that. So when this guy actually finally made it to 5 stars, I was so thrilled. And the other aspect is they live for a really long time, so you have to wait a very long time to see if one of these guys is actually going to finally make it to 5-star. And I had several 4 stars get to, you know, super old, and then I was like, please just go for one more cycle, make it to 5-star, and then they'd end up dying, and it was so heartbreaking every time. So when this guy finally made it, it was just absolutely fantastic. Now, sort of on the opposite end of the genetic spectrum for a 5-star compared to that European hare, this guy is an 85.51%. Now, I'm not sure what the actual minimum genetics that you need for a 5-star Black Wildebeest is, but I can't imagine it's much lower than that. It might be 85 flat. So I'm pretty sure this guy just about clutches it, because each species has their own like requirement on the genetics. You'll notice some species need a higher genetic percentage, some need not quite as a high of a genetic percentage to actually make 5-star. So when I picked this guy up and he was 85.51, I knew he had to be pretty close to actually being sort of a minimum for this species. And he scores 466.0. Not a surprise that he's got such a low score with genetics like that, but again, I really wasn't fussed. I was just happy to have a 5-star Black Wildebeest. These guys are one of my favourite species here on Tikamoon. I just love how they look. I wish they had more horn variation, especially the 5-stars. I wish they were bigger, but they're still such a cool species that I really love them. So really happy to finally get a 5-star for the lodge. Now, sticking with Tikamoon, and we have another 5-star that I've wanted for a very long time, but again, one that can be very tricky to actually get, and that is a 5-star Honey Badger. Now, small game, as I said, in this game is just harder to get 5 stars of, harder to manage, harder to keep track of, and, you know, when they don't have horns and antlers, managing them is just so much trickier, because you can't immediately look at, you know, a set of antlers and go, oh, that's uneven, and take that out and know that that's, you know, going to have fairly low genetics for the most part. So stuff like this can just be really hard to actually get. So finally, getting a 5-star Honey Badger is such a huge relief. He's 90.23% on the genetics, so not massively high, but again, just excited to see a 5-star Honey Badger. I had a couple of 4 stars that ended up dying, again, in the process of trying to get a 5-star, and every time it was heartbreaking. It was like, please, can one of you just actually make it? Because of how challenging they are to hunt and actually manage. So getting this guy was absolutely fantastic. He actually scores 487.9, which I was a little bit surprised by considering his genetic percentage. So I don't know if maybe their scoring's a little bit odd, or if that's just how the Honey Badgers are, because I've never had another 5-star to compare to. So that was actually really interesting. And this next clip of another 5-star that I'd never had before is going to demonstrate what I was talking about with scoring being a little bit weird sometimes. So here we have our first ever 5-star mature Red Fox, which this is one I've wanted for a long time again. I love Red Fox in real life. I think they're absolutely stunning, and they've always just been such an elusive creature in Way of the Hunter. They, you know, you just see them dashing through the undergrowth and stuff, and it can be quite hard to actually hunt them in certain circumstances. So to finally get a 5-star was so incredibly exciting. I was absolutely thrilled. Now, if we take a look at this guy's genetics, he's a 91.78% on the genetics. And when we go over to take a look at the score, you're gonna see what I mean about sometimes the scores and the genetics not quite lining up the way they should. This is very much a known bug with Red Fox. I don't know if it's the same with Honey Badgers, and if that's why that was off, or seemed off, I just don't know. But taking a look at this fox, you'll see he scores 498.0. Now, there's no way that this guy should score this high with those genetics, and I have actually seen 5-star Red Fox posted that actually go over the maximum score of 500. They'll score like 502 or 504, so I know for a fact that Red Fox scoring is weird. So, like I said, I don't know if Honey Badgers are maybe the same. I don't see a lot of them posted in general, so it's hard to really know, but either way, we have a 5-star Red Fox and a 5-star Honey Badger, so really fantastic. And then, after all of that, the last 5-star in the entire game, as it stands right now, that I needed to get was the Lesser Scorp. It all came down to a duck. And eventually, I just decided to go into multiplayer and try and hunt for one of these, because my own map was just not producing, and these guys live for a really long time. So trying to get a 5-star of these can be super hard. And I decided I'd go and hunt multiplayer, see if I could find any good, you know, potential ones to age up, and ended up finding this guy. Now, did actually end up taking 2 shots at this bird, and I wasn't quite sure in the footage where I hit it with the first shot, like which part of the clip, so I just decided to include just the kill shot. And anyway, it is just shooting at a duck in the sky with the shotgun, and I was actually surprised that first shot didn't kill it, because I've had worse shots than that seemingly kill them before, so that surprised me. But that second shot, as you will have seen, just absolutely decimated it. Straight into the head. There was no chance this bird was getting away from that. And this guy is an 86.13% on the genetics. The final 5-star I needed in the game as it stands right now, which is a pretty big achievement. Like, I wasn't sure it was ever going to happen because of things like the rabbits, the hares, just things that can be generally quite tricky. All of these ones that are in this video aren't exactly common 5-stars to get. I would say a lot of these are on the rarer end of the spectrum to just get really good sized trophies of. So all of these are really, really special to me, and I'm super thrilled that I've managed to get all of these, finally. After the release of Lintakoto, we have all of the 5-stars in the game. Now, I don't have every 5-star on every map, if that makes sense, so I don't have a brown bear on Lintakoto as a 5-star, but I do have one on Transylvania. Now, eventually, I'd like to have, you know, a 5-star of every species on every map for all of the trophy lodges, but right now, I'm just happy to say that I have a 5-star, at least on one map that they're on, for every single species in this game. Like, Lesser Scorp are also on Aurora Shores, and I don't have a 5-star on Aurora Shores for these guys, but I do have one here on Nez Perce Valley. So, eventually, I'd like to get one over on Aurora Shores too, but I'm just so stoked. To finally be able to say I've shot a 5-star of every species in this game is a pretty big achievement for me. It took a lot of hunting that I wasn't used to with, you know, trying to manage small game and, you know, just things that in general are a lot harder to hunt. And things like rabbits and hares, they can just be hard to find at times. Even if you have, you know, like the Where the Hunter toolkit and you're finding zone locations, sometimes they can just be tricky to spot. Like, they're so small. And then, like I said, trying to actually manage them, you have to really be on the ball with it. It can be very, very tricky. So, for me personally, this is a huge achievement, and I've been waiting to get this video out. If you've seen my community posts or, like, my last Call of the Wild video, you're gonna know my life is just in utter chaos at the moment. And I've just been waiting for a day where I felt like I could sit and record this, so I'm really, really excited to actually get this one out, because it's something I've been wanting to share and wanting to talk about, because it is such a big achievement for me. So now, at this point, as it really stands, all I've got to sort of chase after in Way of the Hunter is more potential 5-star rares, and getting things, like I said, getting like a 5-star brown bear over on Lintakoto, or a 5-star Lesser Scorp over on Aurora Shores, just to have sort of one example of each species in each lodge, if that makes sense. But a huge achievement, and I'm really excited to see what actually gets added to Way of the Hunter next. I mean, we had the melanistic grey wolves not too long ago. Who knows what could be coming down the line. It's going to be really, really exciting to see. But that is going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching and for all your support and patience as always. You guys are absolutely fantastic and so incredibly kind. This is a really special one for me, so I'm really looking forward to actually sharing it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.